Transition live sessions with Viki.
Uh-huh.
As you remember, we said that last week we started this great adventure of talking about transition and focusing on one particular topic at a time. And that's what we're going to do this time as well. And for any of you who don't know us, we will do a very short intro and then we continue with our topic today. Viki, why don't you start?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share this time with you. So yes, I'm a life and career coach after 20 years of humanitarian work in the field and in the headquarters. And so I now work in a company, aid workers, those that are frontliners or those that work also in the offices to attain better life balance, to accompany them through transitions and to get the most out of life that they have.
Yay, exactly. So I am Isel. I'm from Kyrgyzstan, who's currently in Italy, who's going to travel to Ukraine. Anyway, this is the intro. And I coach people to make decisions whether to transition or not, and in general, how to live life on purpose. So I think Vicky and I have very similar visions in this regard, and we want to help revolutionize the humanitarian world in the way we can. That's the goal and hope. So that's why we decided to focus on different topics. So today, we suggested that we talk about the question of I want to transition, but I don't quite know what to do after transitioning or what to do in general, I guess, is a question that we want to talk about. And Vicky, why don't you start talking about your experience of how you answer that, and
Mhm.
also how you help answer with your clients, and I continue.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Actually, it's one of the questions that we hear a lot. Even before I started working as a coach, I was asking myself the same question. I knew that I wanted to be of some value, that I wanted to bring some service. I also knew I wanted to work directly with people, but I didn't quite know what it was. I had a few trajectories. I studied yoga and I became a yoga teacher, but somehow I knew that this was a very nice tool that I could offer, but that this is not what I wanted to do. There were several attempts to try different things until I really came across coaching first, of course, as a client, and it just changed my life so immensely. And even afterwards, I didn't think this is what I would be doing. So it took me a few years of real exploration and real targeted thought and also work and being accompanied to really decide what is it that I wanted to do, how do I want to live my life, and what do I want to bring to this world. And this is why I thought this subject could be really, really useful, because I hear it very often. And from the work I do with people and also the research, there are loads of humanitarians, or some, I will not say loads. There's a number of humanitarians that go back to their original profession. That, for example, I see some humanitarians that go back to what they had been before aid world or
Mm,
during
yeah.
the time they worked in the sector. For example, somebody in the medical staff, somebody in the forensic field, somebody in human rights maybe, and continue working in advocacy. Somebody maybe logistics, and there are loads of fields, but many are out. But I've also during my research met people who were professionals, logisticians, or forensic experts, or human rights advocates, etc. And they said, this is not actually what I want to do. And they either by themselves, using different methods, different tools, and working through these processes, really shifted to something else.
Mm,
So this is why I thought this could be a really interesting topic to work through.
yeah.
What is your experience
Amazing.
with this?
Yeah, so I think, I've been thinking about it, and I think what comes down to is if you are not knowing what to do after transitioning, I think one of two things may be happening. One is that you are not allowing yourself to see the answer or to hear the answer because of fear. Because if we have the answer, then we may want to act on it, and because of fear, we're not wanting to act on it, right? So that could be one reason. And the other one is really you are maybe wanting to transition because you don't like where you are now, because of colleagues and other things, even though you really like and passionate about what you do. So if that is what's happening and you are, you really want to continue working, but because of some people you are thinking that you don't really want to be doing and you're not wanting to be there, then you also want to think about how to deal with that situation. So obviously our goal is not to advocate for everyone to leave the humanitarian world. That's far from what we're advocating. What we're advocating basically is that how can we live the life while being passionate about what we do and what we love doing. So that's why you can also do that and transition to that mindset while having the work where you are now, and figure out a way not to let the other people and their influence on you to make decisions to leave that place, right? So
Yeah,
that's why I'm just, to summarize it, I guess that the reason why you may not be knowing what to do after transitioning is really either you're not allowing yourself to see the answer because you are not used to listening to your inner desires. And I am of a firm believer that we all have the inner desires, all of us. It's just that some of us are so keen and tuned to listen to them, and others are not. And it's just a habit matter. So you may always find a way to get to listen to your inner desires and what you want really. And the reason why you are not listening to that is because there's a fear stopping you from listening to it, or simply you love what you do currently and you want to continue doing it, but because of other people you're choosing not to do that, and you're trying maybe to avoid it, which is absolutely understandable. So how can we figure out a way to solve the problem that we're facing at work, or report an abusive relationship, obviously, if that's the case, and then still continue working on what you're passionate about, and loving that. So that's why I think whenever people come to me and say, well, I don't know, I would really get curious as to why are we choosing not to know. I
yeah,
think, and that would be a great question, right, for everyone to ask, is like, why am I choosing not to know what I really want? And
yeah,
I think we all have that answer. It's just that we're not allowing us to hear the answer, and that's where I would start. But maybe the other one that, Vicky, we could maybe help people with like tangible things of what to do. So maybe we could also think of like, from now hearing or watching us after this live, and saying, huh, okay, I also have this question of I don't know what to do. What do you suggest people can actually start doing in helping themselves? If they're not working with coaches, how can they help themselves basically? What would you say, Vicky?
yeah. Thank you. Excellent questions. It brings me one of the first subjects you mentioned. You addressed the question of why are people, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes I even wrote about it. I think somewhere, maybe in one of my blogs. I can't actually remember. But sometimes people want to leave for, I would call it, wrong reasons.
Mm,
As you said, maybe toxic environment, maybe they're so exhausted, they haven't
yeah.
taken a rest and relief for so long. Maybe
Yeah.
the work-life balance is really off
Yeah.
balance. So the reasons. So I would say, what are the reasons? And
Yeah.
I think many people would say, actually, I just want more time for myself, or I just
Yeah.
want to be have more stability and security. Can I maybe do humanitarian work or aid work in a different setting, because
Yeah.
they still might be very passionate about this service and what they do and what
Yeah.
they want to bring to the world. And so this is not really that they would not be leaving because of the work itself, but because of the environment, as you mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
I think this is very important
Yeah.
to make the distinction.
Yeah.
And the other thing, as you said, the other things, really people, and I like the way how you phrase it, not allowing ourselves to see or to explore.
Yeah.
I also very often ask, what was your original motivation or
Yeah.
inspiration to join the aid world or the humanitarian efforts? and to see if the person still has the same motivation, because
Yeah.
sometimes you have this vision or inspiring person that, you know, it's still driving you, it's still
Yeah.
driving you, and it's still within you. So
Yeah.
you might still be wanting to do this work, or you might be wanting to serve differently, you
Yeah.
might wanting to, you know, bring added value, serve differently, or just adjust the external things. So I think
Yeah.
these are very important questions. So I would always ask, so what is my motivation? What is motivating me? What is
Yeah.
driving me? What is getting me out of the bed every morning? Is and
Yes.
I know, right? For some people would say, you know, sometimes I have mornings when I just don't even want to get up. And yes, I used to have those. I have to say, I haven't had for a long time, so I'm hoping not to
Yeah.
have many in the future. But yes, there are days like that. But for the days that there is, what is it that's driving you out of your bed? Maybe it's the work. Maybe it's one particular colleague. So all of
Yeah.
these things need to be explored. So the question, what is my motivator, and what inspires me?
Yeah.
And here really, to listen to, not only to say the thing or the person, but to try to flesh out and understand, is it a value, is it one particular thing, is it just one particular aspect of what the person is doing? So
Yeah.
this would be few concrete questions that, you know, you could ask yourself and really ponder on them and think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think the other thing that I would add to that is that I think whenever we are focused on, because of this person or because of the environment, I need to get away or I need to do something
Yeah.
else, what we are implicitly doing is telling ourselves that we don't trust ourselves and
Mm.
implicitly telling ourselves that we're not capable of solving this problems in where we are now, and therefore we are thinking that avoiding or getting away is a better
Mm.
strategy in quotes. And I found from my experience that it's unfortunately never a better strategy,
Mm.
because if I avoid once, I'm likely to avoid again and again. And therefore, I will let those people that I don't like be in charge of what I do and what I don't, unfortunately, right? So, and that's the last thing we want in life, is let
Yeah.
the people that we don't really like to be dictating or at least influencing what we do and cannot do. And
Yeah.
that's why I think it's so important that if it's an abusive relationship, as I said, absolutely report about it. But if it's not abusive, but we are just having difficulty working with someone together, let's find a way to work with them that also respects ourselves, that we trust ourselves and our abilities to work with that person, and also find solutions together with that person, and then decide whether still you want to transition or not,
Yeah.
right? So in other words, transition once you actually are feeling good about what you're doing currently, and then you check with yourself if your
Yeah.
passion still stands, or maybe
Yeah.
you're passionate about something else, like Vicky was saying, right? So
Yeah.
maybe you want to contribute in a different way. And that's all we want, is, I guess, that every one of us has so much within us to give, to contribute, to design, and to create. And as soon as we are in the avoidance strategy, we will always be trying to adjust ourselves to, okay, how can I
Yeah.
do this and then get away when someone else comes along that we don't like,
Mm.
or we feel like intimidated or whatever. And that will be so destructive to our ways of living. So that's
Yeah.
why I think it's important that we realize how much power we have within us, and also knowing that how much of the answers are already within us. We just
Yes.
need to learn to listen to them, and be very honest with ourselves and say, okay, is it really I don't know the answer, or it's just I'm not allowing myself to give the answer to myself? Because if I
Yeah.
have the answer, then I may have to work on it or act on it, and I don't know if it's going to work out. But still, let's explore that first, instead of using I don't know as an excuse, or I don't know as an obstacle to getting where we
Yeah.
want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about while you were speaking of another aspect is that when you are not allowing yourself to
Mm,
really understand fully, or when you're in the avoidance, as you are mentioning it, it's also our creativity and our really
yeah,
creative potential is so much diminished because you're using all your energy to somehow adapt yourself to make
yeah,
it through to survive. And I was thinking about it because I myself had the experience of just really trying to fit into something that I was no
yeah,
longer fitting, right? And so I just needed to find a different container. And that's not easy sometimes because sometimes we don't realize that this is the issue. And just the amount of energy I had to spend on trying to fit into something was
yeah,
taken away from my creativity. That really then really started blossoming afterwards. So I think, and I see it a lot with a lot of people that there is, so much energy and so much potential is wasted on things that could be different, right? Could be adjusted differently. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And the other thing that I think helpful for me personally to have this image in my head of having this internal spectrum of, one side being freedom and the other side being fear, and
Hmm.
me like moving somewhere in the
Right.
middle. And then, some of the days I'm more on the fear side, and some of the days I'm more on the freedom side. And I was thinking that as long as I have more of the fear
Hmm.
spectrum, I don't like my life.
Hmm.
This is my
Yeah.
image, right? So this is how I'm thinking, like, because freedom and fear in myself is like, always like going this way and that
Hmm.
way,
Hmm.
and I feel like, the more I go on the freedom side is when I like my life and I really
Yeah.
want to live it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when the I don't know things come up, I just feel like I'm just putting myself on purpose in the fear
Hmm.
side of things,
Okay. Hmm.
because I'm just blocking myself from my own
Hmm.
answers. And
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we are so inclined to say often, like, well, I don't know how to do it, or I don't know how to get there, or I don't know this and that, right? We are so inclined to say that without really realizing the implications of it. But
Hmm.
in reality, we actually know so much
Right.
more than we give ourselves credit for. And, I always want to quote this Nelson Mandela, who says
Hmm.
that we should be afraid of our potential and
Yes.
greatness rather
Yes.
than our smallness
Yes.
or whatever. I don't remember.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, is true, that we are maybe sometimes actually afraid of how great
Yeah.
we can be, and we just somehow stop ourselves with
Hmm.
topics like I don't know, or I wouldn't know how to get there, or I don't think it's my capacity to get there, or I don't think I've grown to do that, or whatever else we explain to
Yeah.
ourselves, which sound very benign and true. But what if it wasn't true? Right? What
Yeah.
if we were actually lying to ourselves? And instead, what if we just said, well, actually, I know the answer, if I'm very
Hmm.
honest. I'm
Hmm.
just afraid to go there, and let me find out how to go there.
Yeah, yeah. I really like what you're saying because I remember a few years ago I was in a leadership course, and this is, and for the facilitator asked something, and this is exactly the statement I came out with, that so many of us fear our greatness.
Yeah,
And I don't even know in which context it came out, but I am a very deep believer that we have so much more potential that we
yeah,
give ourselves credit for, that it's really hidden. And as you say, sometimes we need to do the extra efforts to try to find it and locate
yeah,
it. And what I also always say to or work with my clients is to try to maybe put it into smaller chunks, because
yeah,
sometimes the issue is just when you say, oh, I really don't know, it's just so big and I don't know where to turn. Well, let's just put it into smaller chunks, smaller parts,
yeah,
so that we can deal with it. It's not so overwhelming, because yes,
Exactly.
it's people, we are people, and sometimes things get overwhelming. So why don't we just take small chunks and deal with it bit by bit, and also really take
Exactly.
the time and explore the question. And as you say, that we have the answer within ourselves, but we just
Yeah,
need to go the extra mile and try to answer it. And
exactly.
also, one thing I'm also noticing is very often people, because of our work, we are extra analytical, we are
Mm,
extra really using our mental capacities, which of course are important, because that's why we studied so much, and we need to use them for the good purpose, but they're forgetting to use their heart and intuition. And
mm,
we are emotional beings. We cannot
yeah.
only function on analytical decisions, right? I mean, the most important
Yes.
decisions that we as humans take are emotional decisions, decisions
Exactly.
on what I want to do in my life, right? It's emotional. It's driven by my passion, who I want to spend my life with, my partner, or where do I live. It's not purely intellectual analytical decisions. So this is also one of the things that I would sort of be aware. I would
Yeah.
advise people to be aware. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, to wrap it up things, I guess we want you to take time, reflect on things, and always approach from the principle of you know the answer, right? So,
Mhm.
what if you know the answer? What would that be? And also, like we said, what are the reasons why you're wanting to transition in the first place? Explore that as well. Maybe
Yeah.
you're not wanting transition in the sense of changing jobs or changing, I don't know, spheres or sectors or whatever. Maybe you want to change in your mindset as well, and that will be enough for you to continue doing what you love, right? So
Yeah.
explore that and then find out what the answers that you come up with, and like Viki was beautifully saying, let's listen to our hearts and intuition and not only our amazing brains because our hearts often tell us, well, that's actually what I want to do,
Yeah.
even though our brains is arguing beautifully for why and why we
Yeah.
shouldn't do this. But if our heart wants it, it's what it wants. And I've learned also a big deal of from my own experience that, I want really to function by my uh, emotions and
Yeah.
feelings, and not by always explaining things or justifying things, or I don't know, saying that, well, it's because of this I have to be doing it, right? But which I don't
Mhm.
want to be doing it anymore. So that's why, um, let's explore knowing the answer, and if you knew the answer, what would that be?
Mhm.
And once you know the answer, you know what to do next, even if fear is there, but
Yeah.
you know what to do next. So let's explore going there. And if you need coaching on this, of course, you can let us know. And if you want to coach yourself, beautiful, please do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I hope that we will just continue giving you answers every week. I don't know, you wanted to say something, Vicky, for the last words?
No, thank you. But just as we were talking about being driven by heart and intuition, just this quote by Albert Einstein came to me, that who says, and I cannot paraphrase exactly, but he says that analytical brain is great, but it's a servant of the intuition. That
Ah,
intuition is
beautiful.
the leader, so that we unfortunately
Yeah.
underestimate. So that's what I would like to maybe end with today.
Amazing. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being with us. I saw that people were coming and going, and
Mhm.
what we really encourage is, of course, let us know any questions, any specific questions that you want us to address. We're happy to do that, and we've been very honest and transparent
Yeah.
about our transition. So. We're happy to talk about any topics that you might have in your heart, and then yeah, we'll see each other next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Okay.
Yes. Thank
Thank you
you,
so much.
everyone.
And yeah, thank you everyone, and see you next Thursday.
See you next
Bye.
Thursday. Bye bye.